Welcome to another episode of Source and Company Live. I'm your host, Source, of course, as always. Follow me on TikTok. If you're not here right now in the live, you're going to see this on YouTube later. So subscribe to the YouTube, the IG, Source, of course, all that good stuff. Today's company is a music content creator on TikTok, as well as other places, but I know her from TikTok. So we're going to get into how she became who she is in this space and some other stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, LC.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy person, so I'm glad you could spare an hour to chop it up a little bit. How you
For
doing
sure.
today? You feeling all right?
I'm good. I just finished recording some content actually. So it was pretty ideal to just hop on live after doing that.
Excellent. Look, I was gonna ask you later, but I'll ask you right now. Do you are you a spontaneous recorder of content, or are you a all right? Monday is my day. I'm recording on Monday four things and then going from there.
Yeah, I'm not spontaneous at all. Like I plan out all my content, I write scripts, I assign like recording days. So for this week, I do have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as my recording. Actually, sorry, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday as my recording days for this week. So not spontaneous at all. Like I plan everything down to a T before I get in front of the camera.
You know what? I feel like I knew that was going to be the answer because respectfully, you always look perfect. You look perfect in all your videos. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, she
yeah.
is
I
not
plan
playing.
a lot for that.
Dope. That's dope. Yeah, one of my cousins
Mhm.
does a lot of videos, the Coley family, and it's six of them, sometimes seven. And they're like, all right, on Monday, y'all might as well block off 4 hours because we're doing all these videos on Monday. So it just crossed my mind when, seeing
Yep.
you and just thinking about your content.
Yep.
What got you into this space? What got you into just doing content, period?
Honestly, I don't like, I wouldn't say I planned it out like, oh, I'm gonna start making content. I would scroll on TikTok like as a normal user, and just kind of see people making music content. And I'd always feel like I could do that. So I don't know. Last year, I just, got out of my head, got out of my way, and like started posting music content, and it started catching on very quick. Like I did not expect it to catch on that quick, but that really encouraged me, and then I started actually planning out my content and putting a lot of study content out. And now it's kind of become my full-time thing. But it definitely wasn't planned. It was just, I've always loved music. My dad was a DJ. My parents were just music people in general. So I guess it just trickled down to me, and just wanted to share my thoughts, my opinions, and that with the world. And I'm happy that it caught on.
Yeah, it's a dope thing. I love it. I love making content. I've made content, as long as there's been content to make, probably in different ways. But I've always enjoyed, loving music and being able to share that with people. And
Hmm.
it's hard to find people that love it as much as you or
Yes.
love the same thing
Yeah.
until this.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
appreciate it. Do you talk about where you are located? Do you ever say where you're located?
I do. I'm actually located in Toronto, Canada. So
Really?
yeah, so that's that's where I'm located right now. Yes. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're like content creator, probably the fourth or fifth person that I know that's from Canada. I'm
Really?
sure you've run.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Because I don't meet a lot of
yeah.
content. Everyone is from the US, like which so I've barely met like music content creators from Canada, really. Like I think I only know
Wow.
one person apart from myself.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's quite a few, especially in the hip hop space.
Yeah.
Um, I've been saying, look, my daughter goes to school in New York,
Oh,
and she's in central New York. So we've been saying we're gonna go to Canada. One of these trips up there, because it's like 4 hours and 45 minutes from her.
yeah,
We're like, we're
yeah.
gonna go to Toronto one of these days. But she's a junior now, so we only got like a year left. So we gotta we
Yeah.
gotta figure it out. We gotta
Don't
figure it
go in
out.
the winter though. Like winters here are brutal. So probably come when it's
Oh
sunny.
yeah.
The city's nicer, way nicer, like in the summer.
I, for whatever reason, Toronto has always appealed to me. And in my mind, I thought Montreal, but then I know that it's like heavy French speaking, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then people were like, Toronto is more like the city. It's more like New York City, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Toronto is
okay.
like New York, but like diet New York. Like it's a bit more less chaotic than New York. Because I've been to New York before and it was just overdrive for me. Like it was too much. Montreal is very beautiful, by the way, but it's less city like compared to Toronto and New York.
Gotcha, gotcha. What is it? So you said that your parents, well, your dad is a DJ, was a DJ, and your mom just loves music, appreciates music.
Yeah.
Was that actually what got you um, into music, you think? Or do you think it was just like, was it a song? Was it something in the water? What was it that actually got you really like into it for real?
As a kid, I enjoyed hearing the songs my dad would play. And my dad used to play my dad never really played hip hop. Like he would
Uh,
play funk, like a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire, Cool and the Gang. Like that was what my dad really played and that kind of got me interested. But when I started like looking for music myself, hip hop was what I first fell in love with. I remember listening to Graduation by Kanye West, Late Registration, The Blueprint by Jay-Z, when I was discovering those albums on my own. And that's what really made me fall in love with music. I would say hip hop was really my gate, like my gateway. To actually falling in love with music generally. So yeah, I take hip hop very seriously because of that. It's the music I would say I was able to venture into by myself, like without my parents really influencing that. My mom is more like of a gospel R&B, type listener. So yeah, very different music tastes.
yeah, I feel you on the gospel. I always, tell people, and they say, maybe this is why I am so heavy into music. In my house, there was no secular music, none. So you said gospel and R&B? Nah, man, it was gospel and gospel. That's all it was. So, eventually, you venture off, you hear music other places, blah blah blah, and sooner or later you end up listening to whatever. Usually teen years, which is what it was for me.
Hmm.
But hip hop, yeah, it just caught me and became my thing. R&B as well, though. Although I'm not as heavy into R&B as I think you are, especially now. Um, I have a great appreciation for 80s, 90s R&B. But
Hmm.
you, if I'm not mistaken, you are a big R&B head. Am I correct?
I would say I would call myself an R&B head. I would say modern R&B is very different because I'd say at least the last 5 years, R&B has become very alternative, drawing from
Mhm.
other genres. Like comparing what you hear today to 90s R&B, R&B sounds so different. I have a lot of people that love R&B. Sometimes if I want to get like a palate cleanse, I'd listen to 90s R&B because that's just like, it's like going back to the basics. I love 90s R&B, but I really also love the experimentation going on in today's R&B space.
If you had to, I don't want to ask you favorite album yet. I'll ask you that later. But if you had to pick an artist or something that you kind of gravitate towards in recent history, R&B wise, what would
R&B.
you lean towards?
That's a good one. Let me let me think for a few
Quick question.
seconds. Oh, that's a tough one. I would say currently people making R&B music right now, I would say I think SZA makes decent R&B music. I would say there are a lot of there are a lot of people coming to mind. Brent Faiyaz as well, I think makes good modern R&B music. There are a lot of like alternative R&B people coming into this space. Like you might have like newcomers like Jordan Ward as well. Um, but yeah, off the top of my head, because I'm kind of blanking right now.
Oh,
But
you're
yeah,
fine.
that's what I would say. But I would say SZA is a really great example. Frank Ocean, yes. I would say that's another like great example of like quality, R&B. Cleo Soul is really good. I see someone commented that. Yes. She's very, very good
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I've listened to her last two albums pretty recently, and yeah, I think she's dope. I
Are you
think
talking
she's
about
dope. I think
SZA or
she's dope.
Cleo Soul? Were you
Say
referring
that
to
again.
SZA? Were you referring
Yeah,
to
yeah.
SZA
Cleo,
or Cleo Soul?
Cleo Soul, Cleo Soul.
Yeah, I'd say Cleo Soul is like I wouldn't even call Cleo Soul R&B. I'll call Cleo Soul like neo soul, more like what like
No,
Erykah Badu was kind of doing, back then. Not really traditional R&B to be honest.
gotcha, gotcha. Do you have a like you said that you felt like you could do this as far as making content, talking about music on
Mhm.
I guess on a bigger scale than doing nothing because that's what you were doing at first. Do you have any type of journalism back? I feel like because you said you have scripts and all that.
I do. I write scripts for every video, like plan it out. But honestly, I do not have a journalism background. I studied computer science in university. That's what I got my degree in. And I worked like in tech for a while. So honestly, no journalism background. I was good in English, back in high school, if that counts. But yeah, nothing really professional, but I'm a perfectionist. I like to think of myself as a perfectionist. So whenever I make videos, I want them to be quote unquote as perfect as possible. And that's honestly why I write things down and like, try to just make sure I'm articulating my thoughts in the best way possible.
That's dope. That's dope. Yeah, you did. I mean, I mentioned. I said you always look perfect in your videos, and that speaks to that. So yeah, definitely, it shows. It shows in your content, and
Jesus.
that probably shows in your popularity as well. I think. I think. Yeah, some of us just wing it. We just wing it out here, and you out here making perfect content. I'm like, bro, let me get my
Yeah, to
ring
be
light on
honest,
and
like
loosen my eyebrow.
it's not even about the numbers. I know so many creators, even in the music space, that don't even have, so many followers, but are putting out very like engaging and, sometimes it's not really about how high quality the video is, but more about what they're saying. What can you take from this video? I think there's a creator I really like. I think his name is, if I'm saying this correctly, Brilliance.
Yeah,
Um,
proper brilliance,
Proper,
proper.
yes. I really like the way he's able to kind of articulate, his thoughts, especially about hip hop. So I would say honestly, when I look at fellow music creators, I don't even look at the numbers. I just really want to hear, what you're talking about. And if you know your shit, basically.
Right. You said computer science. Does that? I don't even know if that's relevant, but does that help in your editing process?
It
I don't know if
does.
that
It
has
really,
anything.
it really
It
did
does.
help my editing process. I would say that's kind of that might have given me an edge, just because I'm very savvy with editing. I do all my editing myself. So yeah, I would say that gave me an edge, in the editing aspect.
That's dope. That's dope. And you said when you said full time, you were saying that you do as far as your content creation. That's what you do full time as far as music.
I started doing it full time, like just last month, really. I was working in tech, and I was happy with my job, but like it became really hard to balance the work. Um, I try to, do this part time and everything, but got to a point where I just had to quit my job and face this fully. I got the opportunity to work with a lot of Spotify and Amazon Music, and doing that, the deadlines are like really tight, and I was having a lot of issues, balancing that with my actual like 9 to 5. So yeah, I just had to make a calculated decision and go with what I had more passion for.
Wow. So I listen, I wasn't sure if that was what you meant. So I was trying to, I didn't know if you were just saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I do a lot of that. No, you mean you do it as a job full time. That's what you're saying.
Yes, just right now I've really started doing it as a job. So I think that's why I've been able to put out content like way more frequently lately compared to like when I first started out, maybe put out maybe a video or two per week. But now I'm trying to put
Hmm.
out videos every single day just because I have more time on my hands right now.
Man, I love that for you. I love that for you. I love that. That is dope. That is dope. Do you ever, so I don't know how much attention you pay to TikTok just in passing,
Mhm.
but have you been non-music question? Have you been privy to the Keith Lee saga of Atlanta?
Yes, yes, definitely. I've actually been following that. It's been crazy and very dramatic, to be honest. But yes, I've been paying attention to that.
I ask because one, again, you're popular on this app, and two, because do you food is different, but do
Mhm.
you worry? Do you ever worry about people like taking your words the wrong way, or
Oh,
someone being offended and all that?
definitely. Actually, I've like, especially recently, um, you know, I feel like it's quote unquote the price of fame. Last month, actually earlier this month, because this is the last day of October, I put out like my first ever like negative review. Like if you watch my page, you know that I barely ever like I only speak about music I like. And I put out my first negative review, and it was on Drake's project. And it wasn't personal. I just said it didn't really resonate with me. And I like it was a crazy couple weeks after that. Like I got a lot of death threats. Like I got
What?
a lot of people like sending me crazy, emails, like a lot of people threatening to dox me. So many um crazy people on the internet. So kind
Are
of
you
seeing
kidding me?
I'm being a
Are
hundred
you
percent
kidding?
serious, 100% serious. Apart from like the post is still up. A lot of comments got like really disrespectful, and like whenever I give like music reviews, I never get personal. I'm never gonna come for Drake as a person because that's really none of my business. I don't know him, but I could speak about what
Right.
I've heard in the music, and I'm just gonna say, oh, I didn't really like it. I don't think it was cohesive, and that's me giving my thoughts, but apparently a lot of people don't understand that, so they just like comfort like it was crazy. Like I got people emailing me, finding my Instagram, finding my Twitter, sending like crazy threats, like nothing like I've ever seen before. So, just seeing the whole Keith Lee saga just kind of like shows, because like Keith has been largely positive, on his platform and has uplifted a lot of like small businesses, but people are never going to see that aspect. People are always going to, once they disagree with you, people go crazy. That's one thing I've learned like very recently.
Yeah, exactly. AJ said you definitely don't deserve that. I agree.
For sure,
I
man.
know people are crazy. People are crazy. That's
Crazy.
key. People are crazy. And I hate to use the word crazy, but literally that's what I mean. People are like
Yeah,
out of control. They are out of
definitely.
control. So that's the not so positive part of
So positive,
things,
yes.
and especially with social media and dox you like over music takes, dox you over
Honestly,
music takes.
exactly. Like that's what really baffles me, because it's not like I'm commenting on like a real world problem here. Like it's just a music take. And I don't know why a lot of people can't really, understand that it's just one person's opinion. So
Wow, wow. What are so yeah, that I'm gonna guess that is the biggest negative you've seen. What's the biggest positive? Has there been a
hmm,
positive that's come from it? Well, obviously there's been
from
positive, but
this, I would
just
say that's a good question. I would say positive, generally just getting to, I would say, meet with a lot of like artists that I consider, you know, big in this space. I've had the opportunity to interview two artists that I've really liked. I have a couple more interviews lined up with a lot of artists that I respect so much. And it's just crazy that this platform has given me the opportunity to actually meet with these artists in real life. I've also had a lot of artists like shout out my posts about them, like on your Instagram, on your Twitter. I've had No Name, shout me out. I don't know if you know who No Name is. Like she's a female rapper, really cool. I've had West Side Gun shout me out as well. I've had the teams of a lot of artists reach out to me, gift me a lot of stuff, gift me free vinyls, and just a lot of stuff just because of the music. And I think that's just amazing, really.
that's dope. So you get shouted out by West Side Gun. My girl Adri gets blocked on Instagram by West Side
Oh,
Gun.
whoa, and I know Adri, like, whoa, that's crazy. I never knew that. Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't know it until last week. I didn't know it until last week. She said she's
Did
never
she
even
make
had
like
an
a video
interaction
about
with
that?
him. She hasn't even talked to him before. But yeah, some
Yeah,
people speculate that it's something that she said, like maybe she didn't praise a Griselda album somewhere along the line, and he
probably.
was
One
just
thing
like,
I've really noticed nowadays, artists are paying so much attention to the negative, and it baffles me. It baffles me because
yeah,
if there's one negative review, there's probably like 500 positive, people lifting you up. So it baffles me when artists kind of choose to to focus on the negative, the negative aspect, of that really.
yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I found it to be hilarious, but yeah, yeah, as much as she loves Griselda. But anyway, so you made a video not too long ago talking about songwriting. I think that's the one I commented on and said, "Oh, we got to talk about that." I think it was that video.
Yes, it was
But
probably
you were
that.
talking about, yeah, you were talking about how. Well, let me just ask you my question in regards to songwriting.
Hmm.
And you mentioned how it's more important in hip hop than it is in R&B.
Hmm.
Do you do you think that I'll lay the whole thing out. We were having a discussion a while back about Taylor Swift and Beyonce,
Uh-huh.
right? I've never heard anybody give like other artists credit as far as their superbness
Hmm.
based on them writing. Like they say, yeah, Prince writes songs, Prince does everything.
Hmm.
But I've never heard anybody like put someone above someone based on them writing their own
Yeah.
songs in R&B because it's never been a big thing. Do you think that songwriting in R&B gives the songwriter more credibility, or is it just for you? Is it more based on the content, the musical content?
Yeah, in R&B and like pop, um, I would say the only artists that I've seen people, okay, two artists that, okay, so there are two artists that were really big, Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, especially regarding their voices. So they both have amazing voices. And a lot of conversations I will see online regarding both of them is like, if you're like, okay, it comes down to Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, who are you going with? And a lot of people are like, I'd rather lean more towards Mariah because she could sing, but she also wrote like if she has 19 number one hits and wrote 18 out of 19. And Whitney, even in her documentary that came out last year, that actually was in theaters, it was really highlighted that Whitney never wrote her music. But in my opinion, it's a cool fact to be like, oh, this artist wrote your song. That's cool. But it's never gonna be a reason why I'm like, okay, they're way better. I think it's really cool to be able to do everything yourself, but also it comes down to the execution, in my opinion. Like you could write the most witty, beautiful lyrics, but execution is what matters. And to be able to take, what someone else wrote and turn it into something beautiful is equally as impressive. So for me, generally for singers, doesn't really matter. I would feel a type of way if a rapper didn't write your lyrics, though. I would feel a type of way about that. But for a singer, not really. I personally don't really care that much.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. And yes, I'm with you. When I know that rappers don't write their own lyrics, and I think it's a sliding scale because
Mm,
you got your you got your people that don't write. Well, I'll say Dr. Dre, just like he's not writing any raps.
okay.
Then you've got your people that have a group and they write with them. Then you have your
Okay.
people that just write their own lyrics. And so I feel like it's a sliding scale. I
Yeah, that's
personally,
actually interesting.
if I could have it my way, I'd be like, listen, don't say it if you didn't write it. Don't say it unless it's a hook, bridge, something like that. Don't say it if you
Yeah.
didn't write it. But where we are now, it's like it's hard to know, and it's hard to
For me,
kind of
right now,
separate.
I would say from like what would differentiate that sliding scale is the subject matter.
Mhm.
Because it's we hip hop has changed a lot. Nowadays, like you hear hip hop music, you cannot even tell what the person is talking about. Like they're just like, they're just vibing and the production is like,
Vibe.
hitting hard and like if you're like, okay, they didn't write your lyrics, it might not like I'll be like, okay, that's fine. But if you try to pass it out like your storytelling, like you're trying to pass it out like your storytelling about your life and maybe your struggles or something, and I find out that you didn't write that, it's like, okay, then I honestly will look at you a type of way. So I think it really depends on what the subject matter is about. Like if you're just like vibing and just saying, this is cool, like that's okay. But if you want to like talk about struggles or like a personal experience, relationships, then I expect you to write your own rhymes.
Hey, that's very fair. That's very fair. What I know we talked about your working and taking the music content creation as full time.
Mm.
Do you have any other passions? Like I feel like you're about to say like, yeah, I played the violin for 12 years and I don't know what you're about to say.
To be honest, I'm classically trained, piano.
Yeah.
So
Ah,
yeah, since I was 8 years old, my dad, he was insistent. He said, "You have to learn an instrument for me and all my siblings." So I learned the piano. So I'm classically trained in that aspect. Maybe that gives me an edge. I don't know if that really gives me an edge. But other passions, I'm very artistic. I draw, I paint, I love movies. I want to go to film school because
yeah.
I feel like I could take, if I go to film school, I could take content creation to a different level. Um, hi, to a different level, really. My, my end goal is I really want to make documentaries about artists, about the music, and
Wow.
kind of do that. That's kind of what I really want to do. I don't really want to content create forever. I just look at it as a stepping stone to where I eventually want to get. So I have a lot of passions, like a lot of passions really,
That's
but
awesome.
music is up there.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's dope though. That's dope. Cause yeah, because one might see you and be like, yeah, she just loves music and just think that that's it, but there's more to it. So
Yeah,
gotta
it's
gotta
very
love
different.
that.
People are really not a monolith. Like everyone has at least something else, that they enjoy.
Yeah, I know people because I rarely, I talk about other stuff here and there, but most of the time it's about hip hop. But sometimes I have to let people. I'm like, dog, like I know other stuff too. It's okay. Like
Yeah,
I get it. This is what I talk about, but don't
yeah.
think I can't go over here. Just
That's also the
hip hop.
approach I take with my page. Because when I first started TikTok, I would talk about hip hop. Like maybe my first 20 posts were about hip hop. And then I try to go out of that, and talk about, I think I did R&B. And it was like surprising for a lot of people, like, oh, she's talking about something else. But I just was like, I have a passion for this, so I might as well, like, talk about it. And after that, I just started talking about a lot of music. That's why I could talk about someone like Janet Jackson, and then I could talk about someone like Kendrick Lamar, because I just feel like music is so wide, and there's really no limits or rules.
Do you touch any other genres as far as listening? Maybe not talking about, but do you
Yeah.
listen to other things?
Yes, like I would say my listening is crazy. Like pop, hip hop, R&B, Afro beats, jazz. My rotation has everything. Like as long as, because I'm not really, I think the reason why that is because I'm not really a lyrics person on first listen. Like when I first hear music, it's the melody that gets me, it's the production that gets me, just what the song sounds like. So maybe that's why I could get into genres that aren't even in English. Like I would really get
Hmm.
into that and enjoy it. So yeah, I would say my listening is pretty wide.
How many languages do you speak?
Sadly, only English. My parents,
Really?
sadly, only
I
English.
felt like I felt like
I've
you was about to
always
say
felt
I
like
speak
the
five
voice.
languages.
Because my
I
my
can hear
both
you.
my parents speak French very fluently, but like they just never taught me a different language, and I'm very upset at them, about that. Really, I would have had the chance to, like, speak various languages, but English is the only thing I've got so far. So that's what
All
I
right.
know.
There's there's still time. There's still time. It's okay.
I don't think I can learn another language. It's just too hard, at this point.
What?
Because I feel like kids are sponges. Like it's so easy for kids to learn something new. But like as an adult, it's like I don't know. I could try, but I don't think I'll be successful.
I think about that sometimes too. Just outside of the U.S., you see some other countries where kids 4, 5, 6 are learning multiple languages,
Yeah.
and yeah, because there's nobody to tell them that you shouldn't be learning that many languages at one time. So there's nobody blocking it. We get older, we're like, I don't know about all that.
Yep. Yep, definitely, definitely.
So I mentioned learning language is meant for kids. What's good, Zahan?
Sign
I don't
language, oh,
know.
that's interesting. I could learn that. I think I could learn that because it's not words, it's like, signing. I think I could learn that
Yeah.
actually.
So I mentioned album of the year or albums from this year that speak to you personally earlier, but we didn't get into it. Do
Mhm.
you have any genre? Look, I'm trying not to force hip hop on you, but we could talk all hip hop, but I'm trying not to be that guy. So I
Mhm.
know you're more than that. So any particular album that you would say is your
Love this
pick at
year.
this point for album of the year?
That's a tough one. I actually planned on doing like a whole YouTube video where I'd like break down maybe my top 10, top 20, but to pick one is honestly impossible. Like to pick
Okay.
one, because I've had like six albums just flood my head right now. I'm like, I just can't pick one. I think it's really dependent on my mood, and how I feel that day. Like, there's like an album that's a dance album. It's called Volcano by Jungle, and like it's one of my favorite albums this year so far. It's just so feel good, dance worthy. When it comes to hip hop, my favorite albums from the hip hop this year have been from the underground hip hop scene, not even like, the mainstream. Like my favorite hip hop album this year might probably be this album. It's called Hotel 1105 by D2X. It's an incredible project. Like I recommend, anyone that loves hip hop will love that project. I, Definitely, I
Me
think you
too.
would really like that. It's Hotel 1105, so yes, you would probably really like that. I also really like this Afrofusion album, Fountain Baby by Amare. I also really liked West Saigon's project. So just so many, just so many projects really. But I would definitely
Yeah.
sit down and kind of come up with a list. I think I could give a top 10 or top 20, but to just pick one is it's impossible for me.
I hear you. I hear you. Uh, I noticed that you have a playlist that's specific to production on your page. I guess it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
producer
Producer
playlist.
series,
Um,
yes.
before I ask you about that, have you tried your hand? I know you said you're
On
classically trained in piano.
production,
Have you tried your hand at any form of
production,
music?
no,
Anything?
no, no. Like I've had some friends that like make music and they'd be like, "Oh, come and like lay some background vocals." I've done that. But like
Yeah.
to sit down and like start producing, like I feel like if I wanted to learn it, I could, but like I just want to leave that for the people that are good, that are good at that. I've never tried to produce a song.
Okay. I asked Adri last week, so I thought I'd throw it out there. Just curious. But uh, when it comes to your production appreciation, like do you have a big appreciation for producers, or is it just
Oh, I
part
have
of
a
the
big
platform?
appreciation for producers, very big appreciation. And that's why I decided to start the series. When I think of one of my favorite producers of all time, I would say Jay Dilla. Just kind of what he was able to do in the short while, that he was alive is just incredible. And I just feel like, especially nowadays, a lot of songs are carried by production, if we're being honest. And I just feel like not a lot of people give producers your props. And that's kind of what I want to do, with my page and just highlight producers. Musicians are good too, but a lot of them wouldn't be where they are today if not for the production. So
Mm.
it's equally important. I have such a great appreciation for producers.
Yeah, I saw, what was it? You had K Tronada, you had
I had Pharrell.
uh
I've done Pharrell. I've
yeah,
done
yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Child, Pure Born, Kaytranada. I do have Madlib, Dilla. I have some scripts written already. I just haven't
Oh
recorded
yeah.
the videos. So
I love it. I love it. That's dope. That's dope.
hmm
So you said you're in Toronto.
hmm
What's the music scene like out there? Other people have mentioned it in passing, but I'm curious about your take.
Toronto is very R&B heavy.
Yeah.
Very, very, very R&B heavy. Has a like a dark R&B sound. I wouldn't say Toronto because Toronto is probably the most diverse city in the world. I think according to even stats, like from all walks of life. So I feel like it's just really hard to kind of, so I would say Toronto is not really hip hop focused at all. Toronto has elements from like everywhere, like a lot of dance hall. There's a very huge Caribbean population in Toronto, so there's a lot of like dance hall influence, a very big African influence like there, so a lot of Afro beats influence as well, plus the close proximity to the US hip hop culture as well in there a little bit. But I would say if there's one sound that Toronto really pioneered, it was that dark R&B sound. You could hear it on Drake's early projects. You could hear it on artists like Party Next Door, The Weeknd. His early projects as well really reflect, that sound that came from Toronto. So I would say Toronto's really R&B heavy.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And yeah, Drake. I'm look, I'm still not over that whole treatment. I can't believe
Yeah, it was
I can't
crazy because
believe people
he
jack your back.
he took a screenshot of my post and put it on his Instagram story.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, and
Oh
he was
oh he
like,
did this.
Yes, so that was what made people like come seek me out. Cause like I was surprised when he did that because the post wasn't even viral yet. It was like I think it had like 2,000 likes. So it wasn't like mega viral. So I'm still wondering how he saw that post. But he saw it, he took a screenshot of it, put it on his story, and he wrote thanks Elsie. you know. So it was like a lot of people just came at my neck because of that.
Wow. I don't I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. These rappers are something, boy. These rappers are something in these streets. They are out of control. Out of control. Oh man. Do you have just I like to ask make sure you don't have any question for me, right? You don't have anything for me.
I wanted to ask like I see that you really enjoy hip hop. Like what is your favorite? Because I've been seeing this conversation um on TikTok and everything. What would you say your favorite decade for hip hop is?
My favorite decade is the 90s. It's pretty I don't want to say it's easily the 90s, but it's the 90s. I think part of it is because I think that people lean towards the time frame that they grow up
Grew up in.
in,
That's true.
yeah,
That's
or their formative years. So all those things kind of have a different feeling. And I think there are studies talking about music and how it affects people between the age of like 15 and 25 or something like that.
true.
So the 90s is definitely my thing. I love the 2000s as well. And yes, you saw the conversation. I actually did a video
Mm.
where that gentleman, I don't know his name. I don't know his name. He's pretty popular. I had never
I
seen him
think I know who
before
you're
the
talking about.
video.
Yes, I think I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. He I his video, like I said, I've never seen him before, but when I heard somebody sent it to me.
Oh,
They didn't even tag me in it. They said
sent
here.
it to you.
Somebody I don't know.
hmm
I was like, I watched it one time. I was like, okay, I'm not even going to mess with this. But for some reason, I went back and watched it again. I was like, yo, he was very like reckless talking about the 80s. I
Yes,
was like,
yes,
hold
I
on,
saw
bro.
that.
Like, you got, it's one thing to not like something. It's
But to
one thing
trash
to
it fully.
not think it was good. Yeah, to trash. I don't like when people try to compare things from a long time ago to the
hmm
standards of this moment. Like
hmm
we had to
Yeah,
get here somehow.
what I would even say is it's one thing to be like, I don't like a project, but to like trash a whole decade, that's crazy. Like I feel like that's a lot. Like to be like, okay, I don't like this album from the 80s, that's fine. Like everyone's entitled to your own opinion, but to trash an entire
Well,
decade, I just feel like no, like nah, that's not good at all.
especially a decade that led to the takeover of the world as far as music, like everything,
Mhm.
I mean, music, clothing, television,
Mhm.
entertainment, uh, learning, it's all affected by hip hop, which started in
Definitely.
the 70s and really took off in the 80s, the late 80s, as a matter of fact. So to talk crazy about that, it's like talking about your grandparents or something and being like, oh yeah, they were terrible. My grandparents were terrible. Like, what are you doing? I try to let people have their opinions, but sometimes they go too far.
Yeah.
So I feel like somebody got to say something.
Yeah, I would say my favorite decade, I would say the 2000s. I just feel like there was just a like the 90s had so much momentum, and I think just going into the 2000s, like the albums and the reinvention we got that decade really laid the blueprint for what we got in the 2010s. So far for the 2020s, I don't really like what I'm seeing so far. I feel like hip hop, and I want to make a video on this really like going, I feel like hip hop has kind of reached like a plateau. Like for now. I feel like we need something to come and like just, change because I feel like the 2010s was a crazy decade for hip hop. Like the experimentation, it just off the charts. And because of the low barrier to entry, everyone felt like they could do hip hop. Like if anyone wanted to get famous, they just run and start making a
Right.
rap song, you know? So I feel like that really just like had a whole lot to do with why the genre seems to be in a sort of decline today. I wouldn't say decline per se. I'll be like plateau. It's just kind of like, leveled out really.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it right there. The everybody can get in. So I'm kind of at a stage like in life and lots of things. You don't want gatekeepers. You don't want people trying to hold you back from doing whatever you want to do.
Mm,
In hip hop, I kind of feel I feel like the idea of record labels, not bad contracts, not all that stuff, but the idea of someone having to say, okay, you're pretty good at this. And the idea that you have to actually want to do, like you have to actively pursue, or you had to actively pursue music. You couldn't
mm.
just be like, you know what? I just woke up today. I'm going to make a song and see what happens. You couldn't just throw it out there in the world. You had to go through some type of steps. Like there needed to be something. I feel like there still needs to be something, but record labels and gatekeepers, it's kind of like,
I would
I'm not
say
sure where I would
I would
stand
say
there.
technology played a huge part in that too. The
Yeah.
fact that anyone could pick up a computer now, grab a beat off YouTube and start doing whatever they want to do on that. Before, like you actually had to have some sort of artistry or some sort of connect. And because of how like not easy that was, like when you come and you want to make a song, like it was intentional. Like it was very intentional. Like, but I feel like because of how easy it is nowadays, anyone could just buy a mic, off Amazon,
Mhm.
sit in their bedroom, grab a random beat off YouTube and record a song, put it up on Spotify the next day. Before you actually had to be part of like a structure that would market your music, that would take, your CDs or your records to a store and sell them. So I think that has actually really affected, the music industry across all genres, to be honest. We're hearing a lot more trash these days. And before that would be filtered true. But now, like, it's a free playing ground for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to my guys. I see Wiles and Chris in here. Wiles said, bring back A&R and artist development. Artist development. That's it right there. That's it right there. There's got to be somebody to say, hey, bro, that's not it. That's not it. But because a lot of it is based on popularity and just brand, you don't have to make quality stuff. You can, and I'm not saying music today is not this or not that. I'm saying you don't have to make quality music for people to buy it, because you have a built-in fan base that's going to take whatever you do
Whatever you
and be
do.
like, yeah, and it
Yes,
could be terrible. Which
exactly.
which is why I know you said you liked West Side Gun's album. I don't. I don't like West Side Gun's album.
That's
I
interesting.
just it's just not, it's not, and I feel like he's hit or miss anyway, on albums
He's,
a lot
he's
of
a
times.
very acquired taste, really.
But this particular album, it didn't move me. It didn't move me. At no point did it move me. I listened to it a couple times. I was like, I could live without this. Give me 10. I'll stick with 10. I'm good. I'm good.
I respect it. I respect it. What I would say regarding your previous point about artist development, and you're so right when you say that, but nowadays we're really noticing that there's a shift. A lot of people fall in love with an artist, like their personality. And someone just said that, in the comments regarding like as opposed to their music. Nowadays, when we're talking about music across all genres, especially with female rap and with pop, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I think she's a cool person. I love his personality." But like, let's talk about the music. If they want personalities, then they could become influencers or reality TV stars. But if you want to make music, like I expect a level of intention that I'm not really seeing these days. And then if someone points it out, it's like, oh, you're hating, you're a hater. It's like, no, like, and if someone just said that again, celebrity over artistry is a big problem And I just and it's getting worse, as the years progress. That's why we're seeing a lot of stars just blow up overnight because they're conventionally attractive without any artist development.
Right. That is all facts. That is all facts. Well, look, Elsie, I told you I'd keep you under an hour, and we're under an hour. I don't want to hold you too long. But I do appreciate you taking the time to pull up and chop it up with me. Any last words for the people?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone that tuned in. I love what you do. I love your perspective, on here. I think you occupy a very unique space on here. Because there's very very young people like me, but saying that music is just ageless, and you could bond with anyone just over music. It's a very special thing. So I love the fact that you do this. I don't even know how frequently you do this. Because you said you had an interview with Adri, so I'd like to be tuning into this, just to see what you do. I really like this perspective of having interviews on lives. This is my first ever, live interview. I didn't even know this was possible. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate everyone that tuned into this live. And yeah, I have a lot of interesting content. I also have YouTube. So if you want to go subscribe to that, yeah, I would really appreciate that. But yes, thank you once again for having me.
No doubt. Make sure y'all follow Elsie if you don't, and follow her YouTube as well. Instagram okay too? Instagram?
Yes, Instagram, okay. Everything is LC not Elise, so it should be easy to find.
Excellent, excellent. How many times before you go? How often do you get called Elise instead of Elsie?
Oh, on a daily basis. I actually just got a text
Still.
like maybe an hour ago. Someone's like, "Hey, Elise," like Elsie, please, it's Elsie, not Elise. Like, whoa, I get that on a daily basis, so very
That's
often.
crazy. That's crazy. But I appreciate you, Elsie. You have a great one, and I'll let you know when I throw this up.
For sure, yes, definitely. All
All
right,
right.
everyone on the live, bye. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Of course.
For sure.